Imagine an invisible weapon. It doesn't detonate with a flash, and it doesn't leave craters in our cities. Instead, it quietly, instantly, dissolves the concept of trust. Every bank vault, every sovereign treasury, every encrypted military channel, and every single digital transaction on Earth, suddenly laid bare, unlocked by a mathematical key that wasn't supposed to exist for another 2 decades. It sounds like high-concept science fiction, but behind closed doors in the highest corridors of power, the panic is very real, and the clock has already run out. For years, the global security apparatus operated under a comfortable assumption. We believed we had a buffer. We called it Y2Q, the looming deadline when quantum computers would finally scale to the point of breaking modern encryption. The consensus among academics and policymakers was that we had until the late 2030s, maybe even the 2040s, before quantum hardware posed a systemic threat to our financial and defense networks. But we are living in a radically different landscape now. The timeline didn't just accelerate, it completely collapsed. Over the last several months, highly funded quantum startups like Sandbox AQ and Chuera have been quietly validating technologies that bypass the traditional boundaries of cryptographic defense. Backed by hundreds of millions of dollars in funding and leveraging breakthrough neutral atom quantum architectures, these companies aren't just running theoretical simulations in isolated academic labs. They are actively red-teaming our real-world financial infrastructure. They are mapping the vulnerabilities of the world's largest banking systems, and what they are discovering is terrifying. The digital fortress keeping the global economy afloat is built on sand. To understand why our entire financial system is suddenly exposed, we have to look at the elegant, simple math that currently keeps your money safe. Every time you log into your bank account, swipe a credit card, or authorize a multi-billion-dollar wire transfer, your data is protected by public key cryptography, most notably RSA and elliptic curve cryptography, or ECC. The entire premise of the security relies on a fundamental mathematical asymmetry. It is incredibly easy to do a math problem in one direction, but computationally impossible to reverse it without a key. Think of it like a beautiful, complex glass vase. If you drop that vase on a concrete floor, it shatters into 10,000 chaotic, jagged pieces. That acts as the encryption process. Anyone can smash the vase. But if you ask a classical supercomputer to take those 10,000 random shards and perfectly reconstruct them back into the original, pristine vase, without knowing exactly how they fit together, it would take billions of years. For a classical computer, finding the 2 massive prime numbers that multiply together to form a 2048-bit RSA key is an exercise in brutal, sequential guessing. It has to try one combination, then the next, running through an astronomical number of possibilities. The universe will literally burn out before a classical supercomputer can brute force that lock. But quantum mechanics rewrites the very laws of information processing. A quantum computer doesn't operate on standard silicon bits that must be either 0 or 1. It uses qubits. Thanks to the bizarre quantum phenomena of superposition and entanglement, a quantum computer can exist in a complex landscape of multiple states simultaneously. When you run Shor's algorithm, a mathematical formula designed specifically to find prime factors, on a sufficiently advanced quantum processor, you aren't picking up individual glass shards one by one and trying to glue them together. Instead, the quantum computer uses wave interference. It manipulates the probability amplitudes of all possible answers at the exact same time. It dampens the destructive, incorrect pathways and amplifies the constructive, correct pathway. In a matter of seconds, the mathematical waves collapse, the correct prime factors emerge, and the shattered glass vase is perfectly, effortlessly made whole again. And if you think your secure messaging apps or modern blockchain protocols are safer because they use elliptic curve cryptography instead of RSA, the reality is actually much worse. ECC relies on a different mathematical problem called the discrete logarithm. While ECC keys are shorter and highly efficient for mobile devices, they are actually more vulnerable to quantum attacks. It actually requires significantly fewer qubits to break a standard ECC key than it does to break a 2048-bit RSA key. The very protocol safeguarding our modern mobile banking, smart contracts, and decentralized ledgers is the lowest hanging fruit for a quantum adversary. But the danger isn't just about what happens when a perfect, fault-tolerant quantum computer goes live. The threat is active right now, today, through a strategy known as store now, decrypt later. State-sponsored hackers, hostile intelligence agencies, and sophisticated cyber syndicates aren't waiting around for quantum hardware to mature. They are actively intercepting, harvesting, and archiving petabytes of encrypted data running through global fiber optic cables and satellite links. They are building massive silent digital vaults filled with classified communications, proprietary trade secrets, and financial transaction records. They don't care that they can't read the data today. They are playing the long game. They know that the moment they or anyone else brings a sufficiently powerful quantum system online, they can feed this archived data into machine and retroactively decrypt decades of global secrets. Every piece of proprietary intellectual property, every private diplomatic cable, and every historical financial record will instantly become an open book. The foundation of the modern world is not gold, oil, or fiat currency. It is trust. The moment that trust is retroactively shattered, the entire system is thrown into absolute chaos. And as the realized scale of this vulnerability ripples through the highest levels of global intelligence, it has triggered a quiet, desperate, and incredibly expensive scramble behind the scenes. We are no longer just looking at a technological transition. We are witnessing the opening salvos of a Cold War, where the stakes are nothing less than absolute control over the world's data. The geopolitical shockwaves of this realization have completely shattered the quiet peace of the global tech sector. This is no longer a localized security issue. It has escalated into a high-stakes, asymmetric arms race. Behind closed doors at the Pentagon, the National Security Agency, and within the central banks of G7 nations, there is a palpable sense of dread. The consensus is clear. Whoever achieves cryptanalytically relevant quantum supremacy first will possess a digital master key capable of paralyzing their adversaries' financial markets and intercepting their most classified military communications in real time. For years, governments played a game of strategic denial, but the sudden acceleration of hardware architectures, especially the leap in logical qubit scaling demonstrated by neutral atom systems, has forced their hands. In the United States, a quiet but sweeping mandate has rippled through federal agencies. Under national security directives, the entire federal apparatus, alongside critical infrastructure providers, has been ordered to inventory and begin migrating every single legacy cryptographic system. There is a hard, looming regulatory deadline. The message is clear: migrate now or face systemic exclusion from the global financial network. But how do you protect the system when the very mathematical laws it relies on have been compromised? You don't just build a taller wall. You change the nature of the bricks. To save the global economy from a total cryptographic collapse, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, embarked on a historic, decade-long global search to find and standardize a new class of mathematics. The goal was to create algorithms that are computationally impossible to solve, not just for classical supercomputers, but for quantum computers as well. This gave rise to post-quantum cryptography, or PQC. After grueling rounds of international cryptanalysis, where the world's greatest minds tried and failed to break hundreds of submitted designs, NIST finalized the first set of post-quantum standards. These algorithms do not rely on prime factorization or discrete logarithms. Instead, they are built on the mathematics of high-dimensional geometry, most notably lattice-based cryptography. To understand how lattice-based cryptography works, forget about dropping a glass vase. Instead, imagine a massive multidimensional grid, not just a flat, two-dimensional sheet of graph paper, but a lattice of points existing in 500 or 1,000 dimensions. Now, imagine we take a specific point on this massive high-dimensional grid, and we apply a secret mathematical shift to it, moving it slightly off the grid lines into a random, empty space. If you know the secret shift, the private key, it is incredibly easy to find your way back to the nearest grid point. But if you don't know the key, trying to find the closest grid point in a 1,000-dimensional space is like trying to find a specific grain of sand in a shifting desert. Even for a quantum computer running Shor's or Grover's algorithms, this shortest vector problem in high dimensions is a mathematical nightmare. The quantum wave interference tricks that effortlessly tear through RSA and ECC offer no shortcut here. To find the answer, The quantum system is forced to search through an infinite web of complex geometric relationships, neutralizing its inherent computing advantages. Simultaneously, we are seeing the rise of an entirely different physical defense mechanism, quantum key distribution, or QKD. Instead of relying on harder math, QKD relies on the fundamental laws of physics. It uses single, entangled photons sent over dedicated fiber optic networks to share cryptographic keys. According to the laws of quantum mechanics, the mere act of observing a quantum state alters that state. If a hacker attempts to intercept or eavesdrop on a QKD photon stream to steal the key, they instantly collapse the quantum wave function, introducing detectable errors into the transmission. The sender and receiver immediately know the line has been compromised. The key is discarded and no data is leaked. It is a system protected not by human mathematical ingenuity, but by the physical limits of the universe. But here is the catch. While the mathematics of lattices and the physics of QKD are beautiful on a whiteboard, implementing them in the messy, fragile, real-world infrastructure of global banking is where the true nightmare begins. We are about to collide head-on with a massive physical, logistical, and engineering bottleneck. The beautiful math of lattice-based cryptography and the elegant physics of quantum keys are highly reassuring on paper. But when you try to deploy these advanced protocols into the legacy, tangled, and fragile infrastructure of global finance and enterprise data centers, you don't get a smooth transition. You get a massive, grinding collision with physical reality. The first major hurdle is a brutal engineering bottleneck: packet size and network latency. Traditional RSA 2048 keys are incredibly compact, just 256 bytes. They slip through the internet like water, fitting effortlessly into the standard headers of network packets. But post-quantum algorithms like MLKM require public keys and ciphertexts that are up to 10 times larger. We are talking about jumping from bytes to kilobytes. To a consumer loading a web page, a few extra kilobytes sounds like nothing. But to a high-frequency trading desk, a global payment processor handling 80,000 transactions per second, or a massive cloud data center routing petabytes of multiplex traffic, this data bloat is a catastrophe. Because the keys are so much larger, they can no longer fit into a single standard network packet. Network switches and routers are forced to fragment these oversized packets across the network. This fragmentation triggers a massive spike in CPU overhead as network cards struggle to assemble and disassemble the fragmented data. Latency shoots up, packet loss climbs, and throughput plummets. In the financial sector, where a microsecond delay can mean the difference between a multi-million-dollar profit and a catastrophic loss, this post-quantum latency tax is a massive operational crisis. And then there is the raw compute bottleneck. Generating these complex, high-dimensional geometric lattices requires immense mathematical processing power. Legacy hardware security modules, embedded chips in credit cards, point-of-sale terminals, and edge computing devices simply do not have the processing power or memory to run these intensive algorithms. Millions of legacy physical devices scattered across the globe are fundamentally incapable of being upgraded via a simple software patch. They have to be physically ripped out and replaced with specialized, cryptographically accelerated hardware. This hardware transition is unfolding in the midst of the most severe energy and power grid crisis in modern history. As artificial intelligence clusters and massive data centers consume record-breaking amounts of electricity, the grid is already strained to its absolute limit. Now, every single server rack on the planet must simultaneously increase its power budget just to handle the heavy computational tax of post-quantum encryption. The security upgrade isn't just expensive. It is actively driving up the thermal output and carbon footprint of our global digital infrastructure. So, how do organizations navigate this existential transition without bringing down their entire operational infrastructure? The path forward requires a highly tactical, phase migration roadmap. Phase 1. Cryptographic discovery and inventory. You cannot protect what you do not know exists. The first phase for any enterprise is to deploy automated discovery tools to scan their entire network, software supply chains, and databases. Organizations must locate and map every single instance of RSA, ECC, and older encryption algorithms currently running in their stack. This process routinely reveals hidden legacy code, hard-coded API keys, and deeply buried dependencies that haven't been touched in a decade. Phase 2. Hybrid cryptography implementation. Because post-quantum algorithms are relatively new, deploying them by themselves is a massive operational risk. What if a subtle mathematical vulnerability is discovered in MLKM next year? To mitigate this, organizations are adopting a hybrid approach. Transactions are wrapped in a dual layer of encryption, using standard battle-tested classical RSA alongside a post-quantum lattice-based layer. Even if one algorithm fails, the other remains intact, providing a vital safety net during the transition period. Phase 3. Hardware acceleration and deployment. Enterprises must begin upgrading their core infrastructure to dedicated cryptographic accelerators. This means deploying specialized chips, such as application-specific integrated circuits and modern field programmable gate arrays designed specifically to process lattice mathematics at line rate. This offloads a heavy computational burden from general-purpose CPUs, stabilizing latency and preventing data center thermal runaways. The transition to a post-quantum world is not a one-time IT project. It is not a software patch that you apply over the weekend and forget about. This is a fundamental, permanent shift in how humanity secures its digital footprint. It is an active, continuous discipline that will require constant vigilance, ongoing hardware upgrades, and continuous mathematical adaptation for decades to come. The digital Cold War has officially begun, and the rules of engagement have changed forever. The question is no longer whether your systems will be tested by a quantum adversary. The question is whether your infrastructure will survive the day the locks are turned. What do you think? Are our financial systems moving fast enough to prevent a systemic quantum collapse? Or are we already too late to stop the store now, decrypt later threat? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay ahead of the curve on the bleeding edge of hardware, deep tech, and global infrastructure, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and share this video with your team.